think anyone should be consuming dairy?
I really don't.
As it turns out, milk and dairy foods are healthy foods and considered nutrient rich because they serve as good sources of calcium and vitamin D, as well as protein and other essential nutrients. They provide phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and vitamin A, B12, and riboflavin. Getting the recommended 3 servings of dairy per day can help build bone mass, leading to improved bone health throughout the life cycle.
We will not succeed until we stop animal agriculture.
Actually, agriculture plays a vital part in each of our lives, and living without it would be impossible. Not only does it provide us with food, fiber, and shelter, but 22 million American workers produce, process, sell, and trade the nation's food and fiber. But only 4.6 million of those people live on the farms, slightly less than 2% of the total U.S. population. On average, every hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, around $6 million in U.S. agricultural products, grains, oilseeds, cotton, meats, vegetables, snack foods, etc. will be consigned for shipment for export to foreign markets. Needless to say, agriculture not only provides us with our basic and essential needs, but also plays a vital role in supplying jobs and supporting the country's economy.
But then, with one friend's post, everything changed. The post sent me to a report online published by the United Nations stating that cows produce more greenhouse gases than the entire transportation sector. This means that raising cattle produces more greenhouse gases than all cars, trucks, trains, boats, planes combined, 13% compared to 18% for livestock. This is because cows produce a substantial amount of methane from their digestive process.
Emissions numbers are skewed and objective. When stating that agriculture accounts for more emissions than the transportation sector, that is accounting for everything from emissions from the soil that grows the feed products, the emissions from the animals, and emissions from processing and transportation. The percentage of emissions that comes from livestock also varies from region to region. Studies from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization states that greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture is only actually 14.5%.
We're growing enough food right now in the world to feed between 12 and 15 billion people. We only have 7 billion people. We have roughly 1 billion people starving every single day. Worldwide, 50% of the grain and legumes that we're growing, we're feeding to animals. So they're eating huge amounts of grain and legumes. And in the United States, it's more like closer to 70, 80, depending on which grain it is, about 90% of the soybeans.
82% of the world's starving children live in countries where food is fed to animals in the livestock systems that are then killed and eaten by more well-off individuals.
There is far more to solving the world hunger issue than producing more food. Social, political, and economic factors all have an impact on food availability and has nothing to do with the amount of food farmers produce. And as for the amount of feedstuffs grown to feed livestock, none of that is human-grade feedstuff. Cattle can take silage that humans cannot digest and turn it into quality beef products that humans can consume.
So any meaningful discussion about the state of our oceans has to always begin by frank discussions about land-based animal agriculture, which is not what our conservation groups, Oceana being the largest one in the world right now, the most influential, as well as others, that's not what is at the apex of their discussion.
However, livestock are not the leading cause of ocean pollution. Heavy metals, herbicides, and pesticides from all human uses form what's known as a toxic cocktail. According to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, 80% of all pollutions in the marine environment come from non-point sources. In fact, organic human sewage, air and industrial pollutants, and marine transportation account for as much as 70% of all pollutants entering the ocean.
So our explicit goal is to have the maximum amount of impact by creating this new model that makes the global egg industry entirely obsolete.
Josh Tetrick wants everyone to adopt a vegan diet. To see how plausible this is, I went to his website, responsibleeatingandliving.com, and looked at the recipes. I picked a very simple vegan mozzarella pizza. Assuming I already had salt, water, sugar, olive oil, vinegar, and tomato sauce, I would still need to buy vegan mozzarella cheese, flax seeds, yeast, tapioca flour, arrowroot starch, gluten-free flour, almonds, and xanthan gum, which would come out to a total of $92.64. It is not plausible for a low-income family to spend that much money every time they want to try a new recipe, especially for one so simple that includes no vegetables.